On a cold and unusually quiet evening, the small family restaurant on Oak Ridge Avenue buzzed with the soft clatter of dishes and the warm hum of conversation. It was the kind of place where people came for comfort food and silence, nothing fancy, nothing loud. But that night, something happened that would make every person in that restaurant stop and remember. Thomas Hayes, a 38-year-old construction supervisor, sat alone at a corner table, eating slowly after an exhausting day. His plate held a hot serving of grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, and warm bread, a meal he barely tasted because his mind was drowning in deadlines and fatigue. He didn't notice much around him, until he felt a strange stillness behind his back. A woman, maybe in her early 30s, stood near the entrance. She wore an oversized coat, her hair tied in a rushed bun, and her eyes showed something deeper than exhaustion, fear. Her little girl, maybe 5 years old, clung to her hand. The child's big brown eyes swept across the room, then locked onto Thomas's plate. The girl wasn't just looking. She was staring, longingly, silently, as if her empty stomach was speaking louder than any words could. Thomas took another bite, pretending not to notice, but something in his chest tightened. The mother whispered, "Come on, sweetheart, let's go." Her voice cracked, barely holding itself together. They turned to leave, quietly, almost hoping no one would see them. But Thomas saw everything. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice steady but gentle. The mother froze. She didn't turn around at first, as if she expected trouble. I didn't mean to startle you," Thomas said quickly. "Is everything okay?" She swallowed hard, nodding too quickly. "Yes. We're fine. Thank you." The little girl tugged at her sleeve, but her eyes were still glued to the food on his table. Thomas slowly stood up. "Look. I don't want to cross any lines. But if you two haven't eaten yet, you're welcome to sit with me." The woman shook her head. No, we're not looking for charity." The way she said it, firm but trembling, told him everything. Pride, pain, and hunger were fighting inside her. "I get that," Thomas replied softly. "But sometimes, it's not charity. It's just being human." She hesitated. Her eyes glistened, reflecting the warm lights of the restaurant. The little girl whispered something to her mother, barely audible. "Mama, it smells so good." That broke him. Thomas stepped back and gestured toward his table. "Please. Let me order something for her. For both of you." The mother finally looked up, tears threatening to escape. She exhaled shakily. "We really shouldn't, we were just trying to." Suddenly, the restaurant door creaked open behind them, and a gust of cold wind blew in. A man stepped inside, a tall, tense figure with sharp eyes scanning the room. The mother stiffened instantly. Thomas noticed. The man spotted her and marched forward. "There you are," he hissed. "I told you not to wander off." Thomas took a step closer, instinctively shielding the girl. The mother's voice turned small. We were leaving." Thomas glanced at the man's clenched jaw, the aggression in his posture, the way the little girl flinched. Something wasn't right. "Is everything okay here?" Thomas asked, his tone firm. The man narrowed his eyes. "This is my family. Back off." The mother's fingers trembled around her daughter's hand. "Let's just go," she whispered. But the girl suddenly stepped forward and looked up at Thomas with absolute innocence. "Mommy said we can't eat today, because we left home." The restaurant fell silent. Thomas felt something inside him ignite, anger, empathy, protectiveness. He looked at the mother for confirmation. She didn't deny it. She just closed her eyes as a tear slid down. The man barked, "Stop talking, Mia." The child jumped. That was enough for Thomas. He stepped between the man and the mother. "You're scaring her. You don't know anything about us," the man growled. I know fear when I see it, Thomas replied. A waitress approached cautiously. Is everything okay? The mother spoke quickly, voice cracking, please don't call the police. We'll leave. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Thomas turned to her. You don't have to apologize. Not to anyone. Her lips trembled. We left home this morning. I couldn't stay with him anymore. The man lunged forward. Stop telling strangers lies. She's not lying, Thomas shot back. The girl hasn't eaten, has she? The mother finally broke. She hasn't eaten since last night. The waitress gasped softly. People around the restaurant looked away, ashamed they hadn't noticed earlier. Thomas raised his hand. Ma'am, can we get 2 meals? Something warm. Anything quick. The waitress nodded and rushed to the kitchen. The man glared at Thomas. You think you're a hero? Thomas didn't blink. No. But I'm not a coward who watches a child go hungry. Security was called quietly by the manager, and within minutes, the man was escorted out, shouting, threatening, but ultimately powerless. As the door shut behind him, the mother collapsed into a chair, hands shaking uncontrollably. The little girl crawled into her lap, resting her head on her chest. I'm sorry, the mother whispered. I never wanted anyone to know. Thomas sat across from them, his voice warm. You did the hardest thing a mother can do. You protected your child. When the food arrived, the little girl ate like she hadn't eaten in days, small bites at first, then faster, then with relief washing over her face. The mother tried to eat too, but tears kept blocking her throat. Thomas glanced at her gently. You're safe now. Both of you. She wiped her eyes. Why would you help us? He sighed. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. And I never forgot how that felt. Her eyes softened, filled with gratitude and something deeper, hope. By the time the night ended, Thomas had spoken to the restaurant manager, who quietly arranged a call to a local women's shelter. A safe room. Warm beds. Food. Protection. As they prepared to leave, the little girl hugged Thomas tightly. Thank you, for letting me eat. He knelt down and smiled softly. You deserve more than that. You deserve a life where you never have to stare at someone's plate again. The mother stepped forward, voice trembling with emotion. You didn't just help us, you saved us. Thomas nodded. Take care of each other. And if you ever need anything, you know where to find me. They walked out into the cold night, but this time, they weren't running. They were starting over. Inside the restaurant, Thomas returned to his table, the warmth of the moment settling into his chest. He looked at his half-finished plate and realized something. Sometimes, the smallest act changes an entire life. And sometimes, it saves one.